I just want to tell you how this project came about. Really an extraordinary project, this collaboration between the artist, New York-based artist Robert Warner and the artist Ray Johnson, who many of you are familiar with, who in the mid-late 1950s began making collages and sending collages and correspondence back and forth with other artists in New York. Johnson had just come back from Black Mountain College, where he had become friends with Robert Rauschenberg, Jasper Johns, John Cage, and continued those friendships when he moved to New York. And Johnson, who died in 1995, really was a very, very interesting, poignant artist who in many ways anticipated pop art, and you can see that in his use of popular culture, but also he had a very conceptual approach in his work. This exchange of materials, this kind of non-ending artistic process, the idea that works were never finished in a way, and works were only moved toward completion in their exchange with other artists. When you look at this body of work, we're not just looking at Ray Johnson's work. There are very direct references to Warhol, to Joseph Cornell, to Duchamp, to the dealer Holly Solomon, to any number of people in the art world. It's almost like we're getting a cross-section of the art world, both in New York and internationally in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. In the late 1980s, Robert Warner met Ray Johnson and they began a correspondence, and really quite an avid correspondence, mostly by telephone, letter, very few meetings, direct meetings, but a very important correspondence. And that continued until Ray Johnson's death in '95. There was one point in this process where Ray, without much introduction, turned over to Bob Warner 13 cardboard boxes. Actually, there were 15, but 2 of them were intended for someone else. But 13 cardboard boxes, you see them up here on the wall, and all of them with the contents that are on these 13 tables. So this project is one that actually started as an exhibition at the Esopus space in New York. I've seen a couple of you with copies of Esopus magazine, or a journal, walking around here, and this is the third iteration of this project here. From Esopus about 1.5 years ago, it went to Arcadia University Art Gallery in Philadelphia, and we have brought it here since then. Every one of these iterations has been a collaboration with Robert Warner. It is Robert who comes and reinterprets the work in the boxes and the space, and I have to tell you, for my part, it's been an absolute delight and honor to work with Robert on this. And with that, I'm going to turn over the stage and the mic to Robert Warner. Bob, please join me.
Thanks, Lucinda. When I came to Berkeley as a young man, I was living in the Finger Lakes at the time, and at 19 I came to Berkeley, and I was intent that Bob Warner becomes Robert Warner. I was a young man intent on making a professional name for myself, but it's so good to be back in Berkeley and to be Bob again. It's just, at this point in time, to be welcomed into an institution, and it's been a kind and most wonderful homecoming to be back in the Bay Area. So thank you to Lucinda and to Larry Rinder. It's been an honor to have this much content here in Berkeley. In each of the exhibitions that I did, there was always the opening of a box. So I continued the other day to think of a box to bring to Berkeley, and one showed up the other night. So I realized that this is the box. And my intention is to perform inside this box. and I'm grateful to have this box. The boxes that you see on the wall were tied by Ray Johnson, so the twine exists, the clothesline exists on Bob Box 13. So without further ado, a performance inside of a pizza box. Bless you. Excuse my back, sorry. It's the first time I'm doing this, so I'm bear with me. My friend Koos Vandenacker made this vest for me for this performance, without really knowing that I would need this many pockets, but as you can see, I needed all. The other day I was walking down Telegraph Avenue, and I was looking for objects to add to the boxes, and this tennis ball showed up, and it's very much like the other tennis balls on one of the other boxes, so it's great. And I just, Telegraph Avenue. And then a few steps later into the walk, this was just the other day, mind you, there was a fragment of this belt that I found on Telegraph Avenue. And if you look in the very beginning of the show, there are these boxes of belts that are referred to as snakes. So boxes and balls in the boxes in Berkeley. So here's the belt. Hi, Rogers. Hi. So a belt and a ball in a box, and Bob in a box. Now, in 1963, in a car with my sister, Suzanne, a much older sister, she's my eldest sister, and I was with my father. It was the middle of winter, and there was quite a bit of snow, and I had to relieve myself. So I said to my sister, I'm going to do something special for you. So I went outside the car, and I came back into the car. I relieved myself. I came back into the car, and I said, I wrote Sue. I didn't have enough to write Suzanne. So with that, it began a whole series of events where Ray Johnson would pee my name on the beach. In 12/10/1992, Bob, I peed your name at the beach today. So, and he related a bit to Jackson Pollock and to abstract expressionism. So to honor Ray Johnson today, I'll do what I can, but at this point, I'll get back in the box. So needless to say, because of all of the possibilities that exist, this is the next best thing. So that's all well and good, right? You just got a possibility of what's possible with fluids and the possibility of what exists in the... But that wasn't enough. I went to Tale of the Yak, which is in Berkeley, and I found Tale of the Yak. When I was an optician on Ashby Avenue, Tale of the Yak was my neighbor, and it was the very first time I'd experienced that sort of retail experience. If you've never been to Tale of the Yak, I highly recommend Tale of the Yak. So in continuation of the possibility. It's a store, yeah. So here, if you'll excuse me. So I continued down Telegraph Avenue the other day for lunch. It was a delicious, wonderful afternoon, and plenty of time evolved between the walk between here and there. And it seems as though to me that an event like this is fitting for our friend Ray Johnson.